We all have regrets in life. What is your biggest regret? You tell me yours, I'll tell you mine. In fact, I'll tell you mine, then you can tell me yours. This is my biggest regret in life. Welcome to Better, the podcast about doing better, being better, and leaving the world a better place than we found it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Better. This episode is going to be deeply personal, but that's okay, because most of them are. The ones that I'm doing are personal about me, and the ones I have guests on are personal about them. Also have Dean Cain coming up with a better moment, which is super cool. Superman in the house. Very, very interesting. His better moment involves family, and mine involves family. So this is story time again. I'm going to tell you a story about my biggest regret. I'm going to tell you how I became better as a result of it. There's a couple ways. So we're going way back in time. I was a teenager and I DJ'd, had a bit of success, but where I found a lot of success was planning parties. Every time I planned a party, like a big party, not like a house party or something. Anytime I planned a party with a good location and you know, I was DJing or whatever, it went well. So I decided, definitely earlier than I should have, that I was going to throw my first major party. We're talking 5 figures. I'm still a teenager. And it was called Rappa's Reality 98. So put together this show, all-star lineup of local hip-hop acts, a great concept for the DJ to play the top 100 hip-hop songs as voted by people in my city. By all intents and purposes, great. Online ticketing wasn't a thing, so I was running around the city selling tickets to people, promoting it as much as I could. I had tickets available in advance, tickets at the door, and I had a list of everybody's name and their phone number that bought tickets. Like literally a list, like this, like on paper, a list. And come show day, and I'm a little nervous for sure, because this was a big venue. It was the biggest venue I tried to put people in. You could put about 1,200, 1,400 people in the venue. Sound checks are happening. It's exciting. I got my security there. I've got, everything's good to go. And everyone's like, how's it going to go? I said, well, this is as many tickets I sold. I sold a few hundred tickets. So, we should get a few hundred more at the door and it'd be great. And so we're like, cool. So, I leave the venue. I go get my cheesy white pinstripe suit on. We get the limo, comes and picks us up. We get to the venue. And now keep in mind, this is pre-big internet. This is pre-everybody having a cell phone. This is pre-everybody texting. This is pre-instant communication. At the time, I had a cell phone, but I didn't have it on me because I just left it in my bag in the green room. So get to the venue, already have a sinking suspicion this isn't going to work out very well for me, because nobody's there. A few people are lined up, but nobody near what I was expecting. So I'm like, okay, don't have to worry. It's a couple hours before showtime. People will start showing. An hour before showtime, people don't start showing. And a few more people. We ended up with, I think, it was definitely under 100 people. And I got my head in my hands. How could this have happened? How? The other problem was you didn't really share your cell phone number with people back in the day, so I was sharing my landline with people. What ended up happening was that list that I had, that I didn't even think about afterwards, until I was like, what the hell is going on? I should start contacting these people, find out why they didn't come. The list was stolen by a competitor who had an act that was in the show. They called people and told them the show was canceled. somehow, and they were, I was green, I was new to the game, they were in the game a lot longer. Somehow they were able to basically communicate to almost everybody in the city that this event was canceled. So I get home that night and I've got nothing but angry people saying, give me my money back, which obviously I had to do, right? It's not their fault that this happened. While I'm at the venue, people want their money. Serious people want their money. I'm a kid. So my mom suggested to me, clearly her and my dad had talked about it before, realizing that there was a high probability this was not going to go well for me. She says, call your grandma. She'll give you the money. 10, 12, $12,500, I think it was, maybe 15. So she says, yes, get your mom to cut checks to people. I'll give her the money tomorrow. That's what happens. Oh my God. The relief. And everybody was blown away. Everybody was shocked that they got their money. And from that day forward, I didn't do any shows that lost a big amount of money. I mean, the occasional show, weather or whatever, I had a birthday party. It didn't work out very well for me because the weather was horrible that day. I did events that didn't do well, but I never lost a lot of money on a show ever again. So I guess that was one way I became better. I was like, I'm not leaving anything to chance. But I mean, that's a lesson everybody learns at some point. So I get this money from my grandma and everybody gets paid. And I didn't feel a great sense of requirement to pay her back. I had a job. I was making not great money, but enough money that I could have given her some money every week. I didn't. I did pay her back a little bit of it, but not enough of it by any means. And she passed away without me paying her back. And this is my grandma here. So that's her right there, my granny. Gladys. That's me with her. I know I was a hella cute kid, right? Better times for sure. This version of Jay wasn't borrowing money from her. This version of Jay was more than happy just to be around her. So I was, I'll just bring this up here. I'll leave it here. So I love my grandma very much. I miss her a lot. I'm sad that I didn't have more time with her. I'm sad that it took me forever to get better, to understand that I should have listened to her more, spent more time with her. A lot of regret there. Biggest regret is that I never paid her back. I should have paid her back. I could have paid her back. But I didn't at that point. It's a common theme here. I'm a late bloomer. It took me a while to figure out what life was all about, and I didn't take it seriously. I didn't understand the severity of it. I was like, well, she has money, so what's the difference? What does she care if I pay her back? Didn't understand it's the principle of the thing, right? You pay her back because she went out on the limb for you. She did something huge for you, and you didn't pay her back, and that's a huge that will stick with me for a very, very long time. Had it happened today, had I needed to borrow money from my grandma today, thankfully I don't borrow money from people. But if I had to, I would pay back 100%. It wouldn't matter what's happened in my life. I would bend over backwards to pay it back. So, I saw her lots after this. I went to her place. She came to our place. She was there every Christmas. We spent a considerable amount of time together. Not enough, but we spent time together. And she was always so polite. She never brought up the fact that I didn't pay her back. My parents brought it up all the time, as they should, but she didn't bring it up. She just enjoyed spending time with her grandson. Even though I know in the back of her head, she was like, I wish this deadbeat would pay me back. But, I didn't really bring it up either. And I think it became this unspoken thing between us. I would, every so often I would say, oh, this is how I'm going to pay you back. And then that would never come to fruition, because back then, and here, we'll get into the ways this made me better. The first way is back then, this lesson taught me, I'm a big leap before you look kind of guy, but I'm also now as a great example, if I'm riding a mountain bike, I'm hitting a path and I can't see the under end of the hill, I still go full tilt for the hill because I understand that there's been lots of people that have gone over this hill and been perfectly fine. So I take educated risks now. I leap before I look, but if I know that I'm off the beaten path, I won't. Right? If I go skydiving, I know the chances of me dying or getting injured from it very, very slim. If I do that with base jumping, whitewater rafting, zip lining, horseback ride, all these sorts of things, there is inherent risk there, but there isn't. But it's not like you're the first person doing it, or like you don't know what's happened before, right? So it's educated risk. Back then, it was just leap before you look. It didn't matter where you were, and that's what happened. I did this event. I shouldn't have. I wasn't ready. I borrowed money, and I did not even understand the importance of money at that time. I just looked at it like she had money, I didn't, and she gave it to me, and that's what happens. So leap before you look, but only when you understand the circumstances around it. That was the first big lesson that came out of this. The first better moment for me. The second was to do for people as they do for me. So I should have bent over backwards. I should have all the money that came in, aside from my basic living expenses, which weren't high because I was living at home with my parents, all that money should have gone to her. Even if I hadn't been able to pay her back entirely before she passed away, at the very least, I would have paid her back the majority, and she would have seen the effort I was putting into paying her back. Later on, I would borrow money from an uncle, and I sure as shit paid him back because this taught me that when somebody sticks their neck out for you, you have to do everything to validate the fact that you deserved it. See, that's the thing. That's the thing that people miss. When you don't fulfill your end, people stop wanting to do for you, and people get mad about that. You know, somebody lends you money, you don't pay them back. You come back, you're like, hey, I just need a little bit more, and then I can pay you back the whole thing. Okay, cool. I'll give you this too. Okay, and then you don't pay that back. Then you come back, you're like, I need more money, and you're like, get the fuck out of here. Like, you're not getting more money out of me. You already owe me money from the previous 2 times. There's no way. And then you get mad. You're like, what the heck? Why can't this person understand me? Understand that I'm trying to make it. I'm trying to do the thing, you know? It's because they don't trust you. You've lost validation of trust. And I learned that. So now, it's kind of like this thing where if I have to do anything that requires somebody to trust me, to put trust in me, I will do everything I can to make sure that trust is validated. Another way that this made me better, a little bit deeper, is it made me understand, because she passed away without this payment, and because I feel like I didn't spend enough time, I didn't listen to her stories enough, that sort of thing. I do feel like what came out of that was I need to appreciate people more. Um, I need to understand that everybody's different and I'm not going to agree with people on everything, but there is a lot you can learn from someone, especially a grandparent. Somebody's been around in this world for 70, 80, 90, 100 years, whatever that number looks like. That's very cool I recently bought books. I think this is going to come out in January, so it's coming out after Christmas. I bought books for my parents, and it was books they could write in, that where they could share their stories, share their life story with me in ways that they would not think to do so normally in regular life. I really wish I had the chance to do that with my grandma, with my baba, with my granny, with my Guido, with my papa. I don't feel like I was the greatest grandkid ever. I know that my mom likes to pretend that I was, but there's a lot of regret there. A lot of regret. The biggest regret is not paying her back, but coupled with that was not understanding or appreciating those people that I had in my life at the time. Going over to grandma's was a burden. Oh, it's so boring. There's nothing to do there. And I see it in kids now. I understand it wasn't just me. It's just something that we think, because friends are more interesting. Girls are more interesting. Kicking a ball in the backyard is more interesting than going to see your grandparents. I really wish that I had learned that what I know to be true today is that stories and experiences mean way more than anything else. And that people who have been down this journey of life before you, they have a contribution to give to you. I can't think of anybody that's older than me who I've listened to their stories, who I didn't learn something from, who I didn't take something away from that. This experience allowed me to appreciate the understanding, to appreciate people more than I was, and to do for them as they do for me, and to never take them for granted. If you were lucky enough to have your grandparents in your life still, um wow, just go and like just say, hey, just start telling me stories, now I've got my parents are here, they're still alive, and I would love to spend more time with them. I'm unfortunately, there's always life comes up, right? There's always life in the way of spending time with people you want to, and it's kind of a problem I have with our very existence, is the fact that, like, I would love to spend more time with my mom and dad, but life, it sucks. I would, if I was, people always say, like, what would you find meaning? Let's say I won the lottery tomorrow, I won $600 million in the lottery. What would you find meaning in life? Like, would you stop working? What would you do? Yeah, fuck. Yes, I would stop working. I would still write. I might still podcast, but I wouldn't do it for money. I wouldn't do it to try to, like, go viral or anything like that. I would just do it to do it because I enjoy it. But the number one thing I would do is, if I won $600 million or $20 million or whatever in the lottery, the first thing I would do is book trips with my mom, book trips with my dad. I would be going to see relatives more regularly, like my relatives in San Francisco, my relatives in LA, my relatives in BC. The list is long. I would spend tons of time with the people who I want to spend time with. If I had the luxury of doing that, I would do it. And I hope in the next couple of years, everybody stays healthy and I'm able to become even more financially independent. And as a result, I can do that. That is my goal, to have a lot of money, is to spend that money on time with people that I care about. And that this lesson taught me that, right? To just learn to appreciate people, learn to listen to people, learn to spend time with people that you care about, and that's really some of the greatest shit that life has to offer. So those are the better lessons that came out of it. And I really think that, it sucks I had that experience, but that experience, when she passed away, the regret that was inside of me was unbelievable, crushing. And it forced me to look at myself and say, now I wish this had been baked into me. Of course, I wish this was baked into me, but it wasn't. So it forced me to confront. This might be my first better moment, to be honest. It forced me to confront who I was, and the interesting thing about it was, I looked at it and I said, God, I hate that side of me. I hate that I didn't pay her back. I hate that I didn't spend more time with her. I hate all this stuff. So I adjusted. I did things differently. I've tried to be there for my parents when they've needed me. I've tried, it's hard being an entrepreneur and spending time with family, but I've tried to make time. Years when I couldn't afford Christmas gifts and all that, I wrote letters, to show them what they meant to me. I just do the best I can, but I don't think I would have matured in this regard if it wouldn't have been for this experience. I wouldn't have matured as quickly. So that is my takeaway from this. That's how I became better from this. So if you've got these people in your life, make as much time as you can. If you owe somebody money, pay them back. Pay them back. Do whatever you got to do. If you got to take out another job just to pay them back, quit that job afterwards, so you're not killing yourself for the almighty dollar. But really, really focus on treating people well and not taking advantage of people. You might find that there are ways that you do it that aren't as severe as, money, but look at your life, look at your interactions with people, look at your relationships and say, what can I do better? That's what this forced me to do. It forced me to look at my relationships and say, what can I do better for these relationships? I'm not perfect. I don't do it right all the time, but it's always in the back of my mind. And that's a critical part of growth. That's a critical part of being better. And now I am. What's this one? This is right here. Be better. This is how I be better. Terrible English, but you know what I'm saying. All right. You know what? I'm going to end this off with, let's just go here. 1 second, guys. I got away from the page I wanted to be on. I want to end this off with a better experience, a better story, a story of people doing better. So I'm going to bring this up. 1 sec. I need to. Why is it telling me to stop screen? I don't want to do that. I want to share a screen. Here we go. All right. So this is a story from the Good News Network. Love this website. You go to it, you feel good after you've been on it. If you can, go check out goodnewsnetwork.org. So this story, UPS driver saves collapsed grandmother, then brings her treats every week to hospital. She's family now. So read the story out to you quick. It turns out the angels sometimes wear brown. UPS driver Raheem Cooper was passing through his normal route in a Georgian town of Valdosta when he saw an elderly woman collapsed on her driveway. Calling emergency services, Cooper stayed with the woman, identified later as Mary Coble, all the while calling her grandmother. The woman was checked into the hospital where there was an emergency brain surgery, and they performed on her subdural hematoma. She made it through, and the granddaughter heard of Cooper, heard of what he had did, and she managed to track him down. I found his number. I called him. I told him thank you, that he was truly an angel to our family to have found her, because if he wouldn't have, she would have died that day. 5 days after the surgery, she hadn't talked at all. And when he came into the room, she brightened up and actually pushed herself up and gave him a hug. That was the first time since the whole thing had happened that she was really interacting with people. Following up, Cooper started a GoFundMe to raise money for the family, seeing as how members had to drive in from out of town to stay with Coble while she recovered. He just wants to lend a helping hand, he insists, and kicked the fund drive off with $100 of his own money. Earlier this week, Raheem Cooper received a letter from UPS's chief executive officer, the CEO, for his acts of heroism at his local branch. A coworker got him tickets to the Florida State University football game, and the supervisor presented him with a plaque in his honor. Cool. Great story about someone doing better for somebody's grandmother. That's the stuff we need to focus on. You know, the news is generally pretty bad out there. You hear a lot of negatives. I recommend going to the Good News Network at least once a week and getting a dose of their stories, because it really does. It really just helps you understand that the world is not a bad place. This guy doing better for someone he never even met, and they end up having this lasting relationship out of it. So awesome. Great. That's it. That is the episode. It's a quick one. Another quick one. This will be 24 or 25 minutes by the time I'm done. Betterpodcast.live. That is our website. Go to it. Check it out. Find the stream you like. Subscribe to that. Find the social network you're on. Follow, like, link, whatever. Let's have conversations about all this stuff. Let's make the world a better place through conversation on each of these episodes. And I would really appreciate if you could share this episode, share this podcast with people you know that could benefit from it, because only together can we make this world a better place. All right. Oh, wait a second. Holy shit. I almost forgot about Dean Cain's Better. How could I have done that? You know why? Because I got distracted on the grandma stories, and then, you know, it all gets very emotional. Dean Cain, Superman himself.
Jay, what's going on? It's Dean Cain. I love the idea of what you're doing on your podcast, helping people do better in their lives and for others. I mean, I think it's great. And I love that it's a labor of love for you. Look, I'm trying to give people uplifting advice all the time. And all of us, every single human being, we're very flawed and we make mistakes and we have to do better. I remember so many times in my life where I was reminded to do better. One of them was a particularly Tough time for me because I was in a custody fight with my son's mother over my son. She wasn't letting me see him. It was really contentious. And then her little brother got injured in a motorcycle accident in Spain. I spoke to her mom about it, and her mom said, look, it's bad. And I was fighting with my son's mother, but for custody time, and I just said, why don't you go back and see your brother, and I'll just take care of our son together, by myself, which I was doing all the time anyway. And she said, no, I'm not going to go, and this, that. I basically we were fighting, and I didn't want to go to Spain for this situation, especially when I'm fighting her just for joint custody. I just wanted to see my kid. And she wasn't being too kind about it. And I was like, you know what, forget it. Then don't go to Spain. If you're not going to give me the kid, then forget it. And I spoke to my lawyer, my attorney, and I said, no, I'm not going to let her take him for sure. And I'll just be here. So if she's going to stay here, she can stay here and miss out on seeing her brother maybe for the last time. And my lawyer said, Dean, the kid is probably going to die. Get your ass on a plane, even though you're fighting her, get her on the plane too, and take the kid and go over there. Do better. And it took that moment for me from someone that I respected, and I did respect my attorney. He was a great guy. We won the case at the end, but I wasn't going to let my son's mother go with our kid. And in the end, I took the advice of my attorney, and I did better, and I took them immediately. I left my dinner that I had just made, and I think I just opened a drink, like a beer, to have my dinner that night. I was by myself, and I immediately got right in that moment and got on a plane. We left right then. I went and picked them up, got on a plane, and flew there to see her little brother just before he passed. And he was 15 years old. It was awful. And I hung around there for a few more days before I had to go back, and I let my son stay there. That was there was a time where I was very upset. But I chose to do better. And we all need that in our lives. So cheers to you, Jay. Keep helping people, and hopefully this little story and this anecdote will help somebody who needs to hear it. Cheers.
Wow. I can't believe I almost forgot to do that on this. I would have put on another episode, but what a great better moment. And about family, right? That's the theme of this episode, is family. Putting yourself before family, doing for your family, realizing what is right. That must have been a hard thing for Dean Cain to put out there in the public. Look, this guy, Dean Cain, is ultra successful, right? He also appeared on, it's like he's a part of Superman lore. He appears in all kinds of Superman projects because for a lot of people, he was their Superman. And for him to come on here and admit to a deficiency, and then to have his lawyer, of all people, I mean, let's put it this way, not a lot of people have better moments with their lawyer. For his lawyer to be like, dude, what are you doing? This kid could die. And then he snapped out of it, and he went and did what was right. He did what the situation called for. Very, very cool story. And that's what this podcast is all about. If you think about it, I go back to James Patrick Stewart all the time. He said in his better moment, to do better, you have to admit that you're not. And then you have to change your behavior to actually make that leap from talking about it to walking the walk of being better. And that's what Dean Cain did. He looked past an argument, past really bitter feelings, I'm going to guess. And he did what was right, allowed his ex to see her brother, his 15-year-old brother, to allow them to see each other before he passed. He did what was right for his kid. He did what was right for this woman who clearly there was a lot of tension, a lot of, feelings towards that were not exactly rainbows and sunshine. Wow. And that really relates to what I was talking about here. I didn't do better for my grandmother, and that's why it's a regret. And that's probably where my when I'm on my last leg, if I ever get there, because technology's coming around, I hope we get to live forever. So I'd really like to see how this experiment called society works out for us. But when I think back, my better moments that I'm gonna my biggest regrets are going to be the things that when I didn't get better quickly enough to deal with what was in front of me. Ultimately I'm better now. You know, it made me better for the future, but it did not make me better in that relationship with my grandmother. Big regret, but Dean here is showing us an example, a great example of what it can be like to do better in this world, and to do it like that, to make that decision, to walk the walk, and how it can be rewarding. I'm sure, even with the tension with his ex, I'm sure she's appreciative of what he did in that moment. He set aside his feelings about her and the situation, and he did what was right for them. I bet that she'll probably, maybe she's at a dinner party, right? She's like, "Oh, Dean, he sucks. He was a terrible husband." Yeah, whatever. I don't know if he was, but maybe her version. I'm sure in all breakups, there's a little bit of something like that there. But she'll always be able to say, "But you know what? As off the rails as things went between us, when the chips were down, he was there. He did better for me." That's huge, because we're not all going to agree. We're not all going to like each other. But if we move in the direction of respect and doing better for each other, then at the end of the day, you've done the best you can. And nobody can fault you for that. You're going to make mistakes. Things are going to go off the rails. Life is going to throw challenges at you that you crumble underneath. But if you're always just doing the best you can, and you set aside petty differences to help people through holy shit moments in their life, man, that has to open up the pearly gates for you if they exist. I always think, because it's a big topic, which I'll get into on another podcast one day. I've read the Bible, I've read the Quran, I've explored religion. I'm not a religious person, but there's a lot of things that can send you to hell. You got to think that always trying to do better is what'll get you into heaven, if there is such a place. If there is such a place. Sorry, had a frog in my throat there. Oh, this is a very therapeutic episode for me. Talking about my granny and my my family, and Dean Cain coming on here. Superman. I met him once before that. That's how this all came about. I met him at a Comic-Con. Having Dean Cain be so candid on this episode, I feel good after this episode. I feel therapy in it. So I hope you do too. What are your regrets? And how, if you can, how can you can always, I shouldn't say if you can, how can you turn it around so that you can minimize that regret? I may not be able to pay back my grandma, but I learned very valuable lessons. She taught me some very valuable lessons that allowed me to be better. That's about all we can do. Okay. Betterpodcast.live. That is our website. Greatly appreciate you going to it, selecting the feed or the social account that you're on, and following, subscribing, all that. Share this episode. Let's get the word out, and let's make the world a better place. Later.
Thanks for checking out Better. If you got to the end, it must mean you liked the episode, right? So how about 5 stars? Maybe a sub, maybe a share. Great universal comment points. And good luck on your better journey.